Founding director of OACC. OACC was founded in 2001. It's a real privilege to be here now in 2012. It was fun to come into the hotel and see the big marquee outside with OACC and the Organic Science Cluster in big letters, and I came in and saw OACC on the screen. It was great to see so many people here, especially young people, the Yeepies, the young ecological, entrepreneurial professionals. There are quite a few of them here, and I think that's what distinguishes this conference from a lot of other conferences. We have many young people, they're keen, they're very bright, they have a philosophical and scientific understanding that is a big view, and yet they're very aware of some of the specific issues, and it's really good to see all of them here. It's great now that the Organic Science Cluster is well along. It's into its close to the end of the third year, and it may even it's going into the fourth year starting in April. And it's great to see it working well. It's good to see so many people and to see some of the scientific reports. When we imagined this and we started writing the proposal, we thought it might be something like this, but I think it's even better than we had expected it to be. And some of the reports here are very good, and it's really fascinating to listen to the scientists talk about their research. So I'm very pleased to be here. It's a special treat because I really didn't have to do too much to organize it, and yet I get to come and watch it and enjoy it. And I feel almost a little bit guilty about that, but it's a pleasurable guilt. And of course, we know, and we've known in organic work for a long time, that our job is to produce healthy food and food that consumers want. And if we can do this well, it's going to help to make sure that we can start bringing some of the health budgets down.
Consumer of organic product because they are better for your health, they are better for the environment because the way they're produced. They're also better for your health because the way they're produced without pesticides, so you don't have pesticide residues that may harm yourself. You know, sometimes it's not demonstrated, but you know, things that are harmful are not harmful until we realize it is. So why we take a chance where we can have products that are for sure safe, and also because they are more nutritious. When we put the chemical fertilizer, mineral fertilizer, we put nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, that's it, and we produce big plants. So these big plants will contain perhaps lots of nitrogen, lots of phosphorus, lots of potassium, but the micronutrient may be not in the best balance for us. So to have enough, we may need to eat more of these vegetables. And when we buy organic produce, we have a more appropriate balance of nutrients. And probably what is even more important is that we need more than nutrient to be healthy. We need a lot of other compounds because we have evolved eating plants that were produced through interaction with the biological environment, and a lot of the chemicals that the plant produce are produced in response to microorganisms, to insects, to plant, you know, influenced by microorganism and insect in the environment, or grazer also. And we have evolved with plants like this that produce these phytochemicals that have an influence on our health. And many of them, we are not quite sure what they're doing. We call them secondary metabolites. But evidence are accumulating, and we discover that some compounds even can be medicinal. Just maybe the example everybody knows, the aspirin, it's salicylic acid. So salicylic acid is coming from plants, and this is produced in response to pathogenic attack. So this is one famous example, but there are many different compounds that vary actually from plant to plant too. And we have evolved with plants producing these phytochemicals in response to the organism living around them. And when we protect the crop with pesticide, they do not produce, or they produce much less of these phytochemicals that are beneficial for our health. Anyway, so our project with the science cluster is to improve the ability of crops to extract nutrients from soil through their association with some fungi that are present naturally in cultivated fields. These fungi have evolved with plants to be, an important component of the roots. They are always in the roots, they are always in the soil, and plants have evolved with this dependence on these fungi to take up nutrient from soil. And that's why in nature we don't need to put fertilizer, and the plants will grow very well even if the soil phosphorus is low. They have an adaptation to live in such environment, and we would like to use this symbiosis, this is a symbiosis, to improve it, to have plants making better use of the nutrients that are in the soil, especially phosphorus, because it's an element that is hard to extract from the soil, and it is an element too that is a problem for the organic growers because they cannot put phosphorus in the soil. Nitrogen can come from nitrogen fixation from the air, but not phosphorus. Phosphorus has to come from the soil, from the soil minerals that are present in the soil, or through organic fertilizer that are very costly, so we don't want to use just part of it, we want to use it all. So we need something to make plants better at using this phosphorus, either in the soil or in the organic fertilizer.
Organic research provides answers to all farmers. So in that way, it's an incredibly good investment. And there's almost no downside to investing in organic agriculture research. Another example is on food quality. We've been going along with the philosophy that if we keep our plants very well fed with fertilizers or with any kind of nutrients and with no diseases, that's the best thing to do. And on the surface, that does make a lot of sense. But now we know that just like when we raise our children, we need to get their immune system strengthened. They need to eat some soil and go play outside. And the same way with plants and animals. And in organic systems, there are more stresses. And that actually has now proven to be producing healthier food with more antioxidants.
Going through an exercise of identifying what the key opportunities and barriers are in organic agriculture and what research objectives or questions we might have that could address those barriers. In addition to that, we want to evaluate the impact that that research might have. So will that research influence a few people in a really big way? Will it impact lots of people, maybe in a small way? Or maybe it is not having a lot of impact for a lot of people. And there are many research questions. Organic agriculture covers all of agriculture, And so we need to prioritize and decide what we have the most impact on. Another part of it is to encourage the research to support the whole value chain. We need to support the farmer, but we also need to consider the impacts right through to processing and possibly even to policy development. So we need to think about the whole value chain of organic agriculture and how the research could benefit everyone in society.
But I can also think of the work I've done in those different sectors in a different way. I can think of it in terms of some of the work has been very practical production issues within each of those sectors. Weed issues, nutrient issues, very different challenges in each sector. But on the other hand, we're trying to at the same time make use of the opportunity of the research to pick up what's unique about that farming system. Let me give you an example. We did a lot of work in high-bush blueberries with heavy mulches. So we were using thick mulches to look at a very typical challenge of how do we target weeds in the row if you go to organic high-bush blueberries, and looking at different mulch systems, etc. And that was one graduate student project. But a follow-on project looked at did those mulches influence the dynamics of the blueberry maggot, which would be another enormous challenge in organic high-bush blueberries, certainly in eastern Canada, not so much in the west. But while doing that work, the student was also looking at how did those mulches, in a very fundamental scientific way, how did it influence biodiversity? How did it change ground beetle populations? And so it was sort of fundamental entomology, ecology work, but it also was helping us get an appreciation of the sustainability and the impact of changing the farming system environmentally. So trying to always think of I guess my point is to try and think of, if you're doing production work, you can often very easily do environmental and sort of ecological work at the same time.
I'm from Germany, Europe, from the Department of Organic Farming and Cropping Systems, and well, on the one hand, it's a real nightmare having to give a free improvised speech in a foreign language. On the other hand, it's a real pleasure to be here. I just wrote down a few words, and I'm going to start my speech with giving a broad idea of how organic agricultural research is supported in Germany. Actually, it started as late as 2000 or 2001, 10 years ago. That was when we had a Green Ministry of Agriculture, and they installed some sort of financial support system for organic agricultural research. The amount of money that was given over, or has been given to researchers over the last 10 years has varied widely, actually. It always depended on who was the Minister of Agriculture at that particular time, so it was a question of the color of the party. It has not always been a Green Party. But anyway, to give you an idea, a figure, it ranges between 5 to 10 million euros per year, as compared to, I wrote it down, how much was it you have for a year program over 5 years? So I think you might still feel pretty privileged in Germany because we have a steady flow of money. So this is the positive aspect. I wanted to tell you about the negative aspect I can see. And as a European, I always tend to see rather the negative side of things. There's a strong tendency towards conventionalization of organic agriculture in Europe. And I can only speak about German agriculture, but looking over the border to neighboring countries, I can see trends towards this conventionalization as well. We call it that way anyway in German, Konventionalisierung, meaning that there's a tendency towards specialization of organic farms, meaning a strong intensification, and the result of that is that where we started from were, I think, mixed organic farms, having both arable farming, arable cropping, and animal husbandry at the same time. And I think, in my opinion, this is the only possibility to be able to reach something that comes close to closed cycles of nutrients. And we have an increasing number of stockless organic farms nowadays, and we're running into problems with nutrients like phosphorus and potassium. And this is why I was so excited about all the talks having been given about phosphorus during this conference.
I really want to thank all of you for coming out. Without you, the conference wouldn't be a success at all. So, and your commitment to stay for this extra day to go through this grueling process is something else. I have to admit that being a Hammermeister, I have a little preference towards the many little hammers approach. I'm going to be going back to Saskatchewan. I'm going to, collect all my nieces and nephews and cousins and so on. And, solve all the organic issues. But one of the, you look at that list, and I know how hard it was to pull together that list of 30 questions and 5 from each group. But how about that as a next cluster? I mean, if we could accomplish all of the things that were outlined there by 2018, do you think that would be pretty good impact in the sector? So you guys have worked really hard, and I really do appreciate it, and it's going to have a really big impact on the steering committee when we meet. And we have a big job ahead of us, and we will include all of the other brilliant ideas that you had, aside from those 5 that you presented, and they will be considered. And the steering committee will talk tomorrow about how we should be considering those, all of the ideas. But the reality is we're going to have to go through this process with all of them in order to find the priorities. With that, I think that Don said thank you to pretty much everybody, but I wanted to give one last thank you to Martin Entz and the U of M for hosting the event here. They've done a fabulous job, and everything's been so well done.